I'm Father Simon Sleeman, or Simon for short. I've been a monk for 50 years, living in Glenstal Abbey, a Benedictine monk. I can't believe that next year will be my 50th Jubilee. I don't know how much I've learnt in those 50 years, but I'd like to share some of what I've learnt with you. So here I am in what is termed my monastic cell. It's not very monastic. I showed my mother a picture of it and she didn't think it was all that monastic looking, but it's not very big. I have a work area and I have my bed and bedroom area. So I thought I'd share a thought with you in these strange and challenging times. Many of us are living in fear. A brother of mine suggested, and I think it was a good analogy, that it's our world war. It's our world war. Fortunately, we don't have to fight. There's no bombs falling around us. There's no one shooting us. But there is great fear. And we are all having to go, like the people of old had to go into the underground in London. We're all having to go underground in some way to self-isolate, to not work, many of us. And there's a great unknown out there. And it's all so new. It's like as if the rug has been pulled from under our feet. Now, I had a certain amount of preparation for this in that last year I spent 3 months in St. John of God Psychiatric Hospital, mental hospital in Dublin. Now, I never in my wildest dreams expected to land in John of God's. And if anybody is watching and is in St. Joseph's or knows St. Joseph's ward, give my love to all the wonderful nurses and people there, and I pray for them every day. But I was downed by a very bad bout of depression and anxiety. The simple explanation for this was that I had burnt out, worked too hard, overstretched myself. But I know that I was downed by the depression and the anxiety because for too long I'd been rushing around, chasing after myself, never settling, treating myself as if I was someone I didn't want to spend time with. I was always wanting to achieve something. So in my understanding, my soul, and I use that word deliberately, my psyche said enough is enough, and it downed me. It said, we're pulling your energy, which is one of the things with depression and anxiety. It pulls your energy and you can't do the rushing anymore. And it's like an enforced period of reflection. And I had to spend time listening to myself, with myself, reconnecting with myself. Now, it strikes me that this is happening on a global level. I never thought I'd see it. But the world and most of us have been rushing around, buying and spending and working and consuming and listening to stuff, living the fast life rather than a good life, in touch with ourselves, in touch with nature, in touch with the holy, in touch with each other, that we've gone so far, spun so far out of control, that the cosmos, that God, that the Spirit has stopped us in our tracks. And this is an enforced period of reflection for many of us. Now, I'm in the privileged position of having children or a family to cope with. But I do think it is a time that our neglected soul is crying out for us to renew contact with it. So that's, as I see it, a time for us to slow, to connect with what is important. And that the cosmos has conspired to organize this. And it's extraordinarily clever how it's done it. A virus, scientists argue whether it's actually alive or dead. They don't even know it's a living, it's a tiny thing. We can't see, you need a microscope to see it. It's only got like an eggshell and one piece of DNA in it. It's given up eating, drinking, reproducing, doing all the normal things that living things do, and it hijacks a cell, puts its DNA in, and gets the cell to take over all those operations for it. So the cell, be whatever cell it is, does all the work for the virus, reproduces it, feeds it, does whatever it needs. So all our wasting diseases are caused by viruses because the virus takes over the cell. Okay, that's my thought. Now I'd like to give you an exercise that might be helpful in combating or coping with the level of fear and anxiety that we are coping with. You know, we've got a tricky brain, and our brain is always looking out for us, watching for threats, and it wants to keep us safe. And when it feels unsafe, uncertain, it treats it as though it were real, the threat were real, and it goes into overdrive, and it prepares us to face it. So, and our brain, one of the things we need to recognize is that anxiety is actually a helpful thing. If you imagine a rabbit, a bunny rabbit out in the desert or out in the savannah where we evolved, the rabbit who had no anxiety spent their time running around, hopping happily, and was eaten up very quickly because he didn't sense the threat. He didn't feel any way anxious. His brain didn't pick up the threat. The rabbit that had too much anxiety stayed at home all day in his burrow and never came out and starved. But the one who had some anxiety, enough anxiety to detect the threat, was the one who survived. So it's something in us that's useful. The problem is when we are maintaining that state. And the problem that the rabbit doesn't have, that we do, is that we've got a brain that can imagine. And we imagine the worst. And the problems which so the rabbit doesn't have that imagination to think about the lion or the fox that might be around the corner. Whereas we do. We imagine, oh my goodness, what might happen next week and the week after. The rabbit is not worried about that. So, when we're in fear, our body goes into what we know as a stress response. Our shoulders go up, our heads pull down, and we are ready to get to fight or flight, get out of here or take it on. Peter Levine calls it the turtle reflex or the guarding reflex. The problem becomes when our brain is imagining the fear, we also go into this reflex, even though there is nothing to fear in front of us. And we can get stuck in this fear pose, our shoulders up and our chest in and our heart racing, and we're stressed, and it's very debilitating on our body because it's using up a lot of energy and it weakens our immune system. So it's important that we learn how to manage that. Now, without tools, Peter Levine says, trauma rules. So we need to learn to have some tools to bring us out of this guarding turtle reflex. Otherwise we remain braced for action and debilitating ourselves. So here is a simple exercise which I have learned. So just ask you to, if you wish you can do this or not, but I'll demonstrate it and maybe you can follow it. So just ask you to sit quietly with your feet on the ground and notice your body. Feel your feet on the floor. You could also do it standing up if you like. And I invite you to slowly feel the tension in your shoulders. And to notice how your shoulders want to move up, or maybe they've moved up. and sense the tension that may be there. I, for instance, feel the tension in my shoulders right now, around here. And if I get more tight, if I get more frightened, my shoulders go even further up. Now, the idea is at this point of the exercise, and we'll do it in a minute, is to follow that movement. So we'll elevate our shoulders slightly and then let them down. Not going up all the way, but just let the tension increase and let the shoulders move up just a small amount, and then we'll come down. So, if we just let our shoulders move up just a little bit, that's it. And breathing in and then letting them down. See how far they can go down. And again, breathe in, move the shoulders up maybe a bit further, and feel the tension. Hold them there for a moment, sense the tension, and then breathing out, letting them fall right the way down. It should be done more slowly than I'm doing it there. We'll do it once more. Again, letting your shoulders rise up, breathing in, hold it there, and letting them down very slowly, moving them back down to where they're totally relaxed. And doing this a couple of times. And you can let the shoulders go a bit higher each time. And then notice what's going on in your body. I can feel, for instance, my shoulders now are gone down, they're more relaxed, and that the problem is that the nerves run from my shoulders to my brain, and when they're up, they're saying, there's a threat out there, we're in high alert, and your brain says, okay, we'll stay like this. So we've got to retrain the brain, we've got to retrain our body to relax and to manage ourselves. Okay, I hope that it was helpful as an exercise to try and do a couple of times a day even, breathing and relaxing your shoulders. Okay, the last thing I'd like to recommend today is that there's lots of things we can do. There are lots of things we can do. One of the things I think is very helpful is to go out into nature. Walk in the woods if you're lucky enough to live near some woods, or there are certainly, I'm again very privileged and lucky to live in a beautiful place with lakes and immediate walks available, and I know that that's not available to everybody. But to look at things, to notice things. And I want to just show you one thing today which you might notice and may not have noticed when you are out walking, and it's the hazel. The hazel, spring is here and a lot of the trees are flowering. The hazelnut tree, the one that gives us hazelnuts, has flowers on it. Now you'll easily recognize the male. I'll just get it for you. The male flower is the catkin, which you see hanging down. But you'll find it very difficult to find the female. It releases pollen, which is blown by the wind, and it has to find, I'll put some white paper behind it, it has to find the little female, which you may be able to see there in the middle of the page. It's got little red spikes sticking up. And that is the female, and it'll be hoping to get some male pollen, and eventually that will produce the hazelnuts. So that's something maybe you haven't noticed, and when you're outside, you could keep an eye out for it. There are also, it's a great opportunity to maybe to read those books, the time you've always wished for. When you were busy, say, I have no time for this, no time for that. A time to read, a time to play, Play is terribly important. But we might go into that in another session. I just want to finish this session by reading a prayer which I find is helpful. And it's from the Glenstal Prayer Book by St. Basil of Caesarea. And he says, "Steer the ship of my life, good Lord, to your quiet harbour, where I can be safe from the storms of sin and conflict. Show me the course I should take. Renew in me the gift of discernment, so that I can always see the right direction in which I should go, even in times of crisis. And give me the strength and the courage to choose the right course, even when the sea is rough and the waves are high, knowing that through enduring hardship and danger, we shall find comfort and peace." God bless you, and I hope all goes well for you in these difficult times.